I never planned to meet a billionaire. I didn't plan on spending the night either, but I definitely didn't plan to ghost him. Yet here I am, ignored his calls, left no note, vanished. Now he's showing up at my job, my building, even my church. Let me explain. Before I spill this story, that sounds like a Netflix drama with a twist, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you love real stories with messy, wild turns. Let's get into it. Hey, I'm not trying to sound dramatic, but this really happened. I know how wild it sounds, ghosting a billionaire after just one night. It sounds like something off a TV show. But trust me, this was real life, my life, and I wasn't out here looking for a rich man, or any man to be honest. I was just doing what most of us are doing, trying to keep my head above water in this big, busy city. Working long hours, chasing deadlines, juggling rent, side hustles, family calls, hair appointments, trying to eat right but still door-dashing at midnight. You know the deal. My plate was full, and love was nowhere on the list. I've never been that girl who gets impressed by shiny things. A luxury car doesn't move me. Expensive cologne. Nice, but no. Flashy watch. Cool for you, not for me. I've always looked deeper. I care more about how a person speaks to the janitor than what they post on Instagram. Money doesn't make a man. Character does. And if your energy feels off, even if you're dripped in gold, I'm already halfway out the door in my mind. I protect my peace like it's my paycheck. So when I met him, I didn't know he had billions or baggage. He didn't come off like some rich, arrogant dude. He was calm, grounded. He asked questions. He actually listened. That part caught me off guard. But there was something else too. Something I couldn't name. A quiet intensity that felt familiar but made me nervous. Still, I gave him my time. Just that night, and when I tell you what happened next, you're going to understand exactly why I walked away without a word, and why that one night still echoes in his world like I took a piece of it with me. It started off simple, nothing romantic, nothing dramatic, just a regular Thursday evening. I'd had one of those long, draining days where you barely remember what you ate, but you know your body's tired. I stopped at this lounge near downtown, mostly because I needed to sit somewhere quiet, sip something cold, and not hear my name being called every 5 minutes. The spot wasn't fancy, but it had soft music, dim lighting, and just enough peace to let my thoughts breathe. He was already there when I walked in, sitting alone, dressed in all black, reading something on his phone. I didn't even notice him at first, but when I sat at the bar, he glanced up and said, "Rough day?" I didn't even answer at first, just smiled, polite but distant. I wasn't in the mood for small talk, but then I noticed the way he spoke. Calm, no pickup lines, no weird comments, just real conversation. Before I knew it, we were talking about everything and nothing. Work, music, our favorite cities, how weird people act when they get a little bit of power. He didn't say much about himself, just said he was in tech and traveled a lot for work. No bragging, no hint of who he really was. He was dressed like any regular dude, black tee, jeans, clean sneakers. But there was something polished about him, like he knew exactly who he was and didn't need to prove it. By the end of that first hour, I found myself laughing in a way I hadn't in a while. He didn't feel like a stranger. He felt familiar, not safe, but magnetic, the kind of energy you remember. And even then, I had no clue who I was really sitting across from. We ended up staying at that lounge way longer than I planned. The hours slipped by like minutes. At one point, the bartender even gave us that look, like, "You're still here?" But we didn't care. The conversation just kept flowing. It wasn't even about flirting. It felt deeper than that. It was like we were both craving connection, and for once, it actually felt easy. No performance, no pretending, just two people being real. When we left, it was late. The streets were quiet, the city had that soft night glow, and he asked if I wanted to grab a bite. Part of me hesitated. I don't just go anywhere with anyone. But something in me said, just this once. So we walked a few blocks, found a 24-hour diner, and sat in a corner booth sharing pancakes and scrambled eggs like we'd done it 100 times. I forgot about my to-do list, my inbox, everything. It felt like a break from real life. After that, we took a car back to his place. Again, I know how that sounds, but it didn't feel shady. There was no pressure, no agenda, just comfort. His place was high up, floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of view that makes you pause mid-step. Inside, everything was sleek but not showy. Art on the walls, vinyls lined up in perfect rows, books with pages actually worn. It was quiet money, the kind that whispers. We didn't do much talking after that. I'll leave the details to your imagination, but I'll say this. It wasn't just physical, it felt emotional, like our energies were locked in. But even in that moment, a small voice inside me whispered, "Something's not right. Don't get too comfortable." I didn't know what it meant yet, but I felt it. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. The city was still asleep, the sky that soft blue-grey before it turns gold. I sat up in that big, soft bed, wrapped in a silence that felt too perfect. He was still asleep beside me, breathing deep, peaceful. And I just watched him for a moment. Not in a romantic way, but in a reflective one. Like, what did I just step into? This man, this space, this moment, it didn't feel like mine. It felt borrowed, like I'd slipped into a world I wasn't supposed to stay in. That voice inside me got louder, not panicked, not afraid, just clear. It told me, leave, right now. Before this becomes something it's not meant to be. So I got up, moved quietly, and grabbed my things. I didn't leave a note, didn't wake him, didn't text later. I just dipped, walked out of that fancy building, no makeup, hoodie up, sneakers on, heart racing, but calm. Like I'd made the right call even if I couldn't explain it. I blocked his number on the way home, deleted our messages, cleared the call log. Not because I was angry or trying to ghost him out of spite, but because I needed to protect my peace. That night had been beautiful, sure, but something about it felt like a trap dressed in silk. And I've learned the hard way. Just because something looks good doesn't mean it's good for you. I didn't cry. I didn't regret it. I just moved on. Quietly. Fully. Like he'd never existed. People always act like walking away is weak. But I think it's one of the strongest things a woman can do, especially when she walks away from what most would call a dream. At first, I thought that was it. One night, a clean exit, no ties, no mess. I went back to my regular life, emails, deadlines, group chats, weekend errands, figuring out what to cook and still ending up ordering takeout. I didn't think about him much. I mean, yeah, his face would flash in my mind sometimes. That calm smile, that low voice, the way he listened so closely, it made you feel seen. But I'd remind myself, it was one night, girl. Don't romanticize it. But then, weird things started happening. The first time, it was a text from a random number. Just making sure you're okay. No name, no signature. I didn't answer. A few days later, flowers showed up at my building. No card, just white lilies in a sleek glass vase. I don't even like lilies like that. I gave them to my neighbor. Then I started noticing people I didn't recognize, lingering. In the coffee shop I go to before work, near the front desk of my office, even at my gym, not in a threatening way, just there, watching, quiet, like they were waiting for something. A friend of mine, who had no idea about him, called me one day like, "Girl, this man was asking about you at this event I went to. Tall, kind of mysterious, said he'd met someone unforgettable and was trying to find her." I laughed it off at first. Thought maybe it was coincidence, or my ego playing tricks, but the signs kept stacking up. It wasn't until I saw him, standing across the street from my apartment one night, that it really hit me. He wasn't letting this go. He didn't know my last name, but somehow he was getting closer, and it wasn't romantic anymore. It was unsettling. I finally broke down and told my best friend everything, from the lounge to the night we spent together to me ghosting him the next morning. She stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "Wait," she said, "what was his name again?" I told her. She paused, grabbed her phone and started typing like her life depended on it. A minute later, she turned the screen to me and said, "Sis, you ghosted this man?" There he was. On Google, multiple headlines. Articles with words like tech mogul, self-made, youngest billionaire, private funder behind major startups. Pictures of him in suits, shaking hands with politicians, vacationing in places I couldn't even pronounce. I scrolled, mouth open, heart thudding in my chest. Not because I was impressed, but because I was shocked. I had no idea. He didn't act like that guy. He didn't dress like that guy. And yet, there it was. All the receipts. I remember just sitting there frozen for a second thinking, I really walked out on a billionaire like it was nothing. And honestly, I wasn't mad at myself. I was proud. Because if I had known, would I have treated him differently? Would I have ignored that voice inside me? Maybe. And that's what scared me. It also started to make sense. Why he was acting so persistent. He wasn't used to being told no. He wasn't used to someone walking away without explanation, without begging, without chasing. Especially not a black woman who saw past the illusion. I realized I'd become the one thing money couldn't control, unreachable. And for someone like him, used to power and access, that probably felt unbearable. I didn't just leave his bed. I left a mark, one he clearly wasn't ready to let fade. After finding out who he really was, everything started clicking. The silence wasn't silence. It was strategy. The flowers, the strangers, the perfectly timed coincidences. They weren't random. He was moving like a man used to getting what he wants. And clearly, what he wanted now was me. Not just because of one night, but because I walked away without a trace. I became a mystery he couldn't solve, and that messed with his head more than I think he ever expected. A few days later, I got a letter. Yes, a real one. Handwritten. No return address, just my name in neat, sharp handwriting. Inside, he wrote, "I've met 1,000,000 people. None of them made me feel like you did. You were real. Unfiltered. You didn't want anything from me. And that's exactly why I want you." I read it twice. It didn't feel creepy. It felt honest. But it still didn't change anything. Because by then, I understood something powerful. The world teaches men like him that women are prizes to be bought, not people to be respected. I wasn't a challenge to be conquered. I was a boundary he couldn't cross. I wasn't chasing love, especially not from someone who wasn't used to being told no. What shocked me most was how much it didn't shake me. Years ago, I might have run back to him. Let the attention make me feel special. Let the money blind me. But I've grown. I've healed. And I know now that peace isn't something you trade for luxury. He kept trying. Small gestures, indirect messages. But I never responded. Not once. Not out of bitterness, but clarity. He wasn't obsessed with me. He was obsessed with what I represented. Freedom. A woman who knew her worth and walked away before she could be caged. I never reached back out to him. Never sent a text. Never responded to the letter. Not because I was angry or trying to punish him, but because I knew deep down I'd already said everything I needed to say by leaving. Walking away in silence was the loudest thing I could have done. And truthfully, there's a kind of peace that comes with trusting yourself, that quiet confidence that whispers, you did the right thing, even when nobody else understands. People always ask me, but what if he was the one? And I always say, then he would have felt like it. The truth is, when love is real, it doesn't feel like confusion. It doesn't make you question your gut. It doesn't need to be chased or decoded. And it definitely doesn't show up wrapped in pressure, dressed like perfection. That night with him, it taught me more about myself than it did about him. It reminded me that intuition is a gift, that my peace is non-negotiable, that I don't need money, power, or status to feel valuable. I already am. And to the women listening to this, especially my Black sisters, let me say this. You do not have to shrink yourself to be loved. You don't have to be impressed by wealth or swayed by shiny things. Your presence, your energy, your clarity, that's the real gold. The world will try to tell you that love looks like security, or that you should lock down a man who has it all. But I'm here to tell you, you are the prize, not the kind that gets chosen, the kind that chooses. I didn't ghost him because I didn't care. I ghosted him because I did. About myself, my future, my energy. That voice inside me that morning. That was years of healing talking. That was survival. That was knowing that sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is leave quietly and never look back. And what he felt afterwards, obsession, confusion, whatever it was, that was never about love. That was about power, about control, about ego, and I refused to let any of those things define my worth. I'm not mad at him. Honestly, I hope he's doing well. I hope he's learning something from all this. Maybe he's finally meeting people who don't need his money to listen, who don't fall at his feet just because he walks into a room. But as for me, I'm at peace, and I'm proud. I chose me. No regrets, no second guesses. And if you're ever in that position, trusting your gut, walking away from something that looks perfect on the outside, but doesn't sit right inside, choose you too, every single time.